Zac Weinstein is about to come on right now, and I met this guy at a party a couple weeks back out in the Marina del Rey, Los Angeles, Hollywood, Beverly Hills area. Super awesome dude, and just playing at a big, big level. And we are blessed today to have him sharing his insight and wisdom on not only building companies, but also raising lots and lots of money to help produce awesome films in the industry. So, Zac, you ready to come on, brother? Absolutely. You are now live on Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self, man. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to come on and share with our audience how to think big.
Of course, man. Thank you. I'm excited.
Absolutely. So let's start diving in, man. Why don't you share a little bit more about your journey, how you got to where you are today? What was that like? What were some of the challenges that you had to overcome? And what had you get to where you are today?
Yeah. So basically, I definitely have an entrepreneurial background. I guess I was 19 years old. I was going to University of Maryland, and I was working for my stepfather doing restoration and demolition. And an opportunity kind of fell into our laps where we started doing these small-time repairs for really these chain retail stores, people like Walmart, Sears, JCPenney, and it weirdly took off. I didn't really know anything about construction, but was kind of just thrown into the fire and was kind of just trying to figure it out. And make a long story short, I got kind of a crash course on business and learned more in the first, I'll say, 6 months of running that business than I did in my 4.5 years of college. And it was crazy. Learned a lot about myself in the process, and learned what I, really was a good lesson for me, what I wanted out of life. And it just helped me, like we say, think big. And, one thing that I learned was really that nobody really knows what they're doing. Everyone's kind of trying to, figure it out and hustle and work hard. And if you can do those things, you can really get a lot done. And so I was, running this company from, I guess it was my sophomore year of college to maybe early junior year of college to, I guess right around the time I was 23. And by the time I graduated college, we were servicing the entire East Coast, making really good money. Moved to New York doing that, and was running that business, I guess, for 2 years out in New York. It was a nice central location for the East Coast. And
what were the key ingredients of that company being successful?
Well, that company, it's funny because it reminds me a lot of producing, because a lot of it's just, connecting dots and putting out fires, we were really kind of subcontracting up and down the East Coast. We'd have these retail stores, and there'd pretty much be these middlemen that managed these retail stores, and they would give us jobs, all over. And we'd have to find subcontractors, who, one, we'd have to do our due diligence and find out, are these good workers? Do they know what they're doing? And are they trustworthy people? And then, kind of negotiate the price and figure out a good price point so that we can make our money on the job while they still can make their money on the job. And, it was a hustle, but it reminded me a lot of producing, because it was a lot of, putting out fires and kind of being thrown into the fire and just, hustling to figure it out. And, for producing, it's a lot of what the job is. It's figuring things out, sometimes with not a lot of money to work with, and doing the best that you can with with the resources you have. And learned a lot about myself. And one thing I learned was, I learned a lot about business, but I learned that I wasn't passionate about that. And I'm a person that if I'm not passionate about, excuse me, if I'm not passionate about what I'm doing, then I can't do it. Right. I need a reason to get out of bed in the morning. If not, then I'm good at, I always called myself when I was growing up a schemer. I could always figure out the way around things. Yeah. And, if I'm not passionate, then I can't do a job to the best of my ability. So I started looking for other opportunities to be passionate about and excited about, and started investing and looking for other opportunities, and first I invested into a champagne company, which was fun. Still am involved in that. Got involved in a medical marijuana company, a technology company, And then I read a quote, and it said, I was on the beach with a friend, and I read this quote. It said, overworking for something you don't want is called stress. Overworking for something you love is called passion. And I said, that's going to be my life. And so over the course of, I guess, 3 days, I, broke up with my girlfriend, moved to Brooklyn, and started acting. And, I got all set up in Brooklyn. I guess I had to wait for my lease to end. But it was, acting had been a passion when I was a kid. I acted a little bit, and I had always said for some reason I was going to be an actor. And, every day I spoke to these guys who were my subcontractors, who were these 50, 60-year-old men. And every day they would tell me, I should have done this. I could have done this. I would have done this. I wish I would have done this. I wish I could go back. And I just remember thinking like, wow, I can't be that guy. If I, get to be 50, 60 years old and I look back and I'm like, wow, I have regrets, then it's not a life I want to live. So yeah, I decided to change everything, kind of throw a fork in it. And I said, screw it, I'm going for it. And I went after it and, started acting again, got involved in these theater programs and got on stage, started doing stand-up comedy. It was just such a high to me and got me so excited. And just, I felt my enthusiasm for life returning, and I got my spark back, as I always call it, my spark. But yeah, and then about a month and a half, 2 months into acting, I realized that if I was going to act, I was going to have to produce, because there was a bunch of people just kind of waiting for opportunities. And I just, again, everything I've been through, I don't do that. I can't do that. And, I go crazy. I get anxiety. Yeah. And I was like, I guess if I'm going to act, I'm going to have to produce. So I Googled it. How do you produce? And the first article that popped up was, producers go to Sundance. I said, okay, I guess I'm going to Sundance. So I jumped online, bought a plane ticket, flew to Sundance, and that was really the beginning of it for me. And on the plane, met 4 producers that, invited me to 2 or 3 events the first night, and I went to those few events. And by the end of the first night, I had met so many people, and I had almost an itinerary for the entire week. And from there, it was just, Sundance is the best week ever. I go to Sundance. It's amazing. So I'm going to go to Sundance every year for the rest of forever. But so yeah, but by the end of that week, I had made so many good friendships and mentors, and just met so many good people, and just learned a lot about the industry. And came back from Sundance, produced my first 2 films, directed my first short film that I wrote and acted in, and it was a silent short. It was kind of risky, but I did it. And but yeah, again, it's almost like a trial by fire kind of thing. People say, walk before you run. And I'm like, no, go sprint. If you fall down, get back up and keep sprinting, and that's what it is for me. And, and then I also came back and I found, a bunch of my buddies who I'd been acting with in this theater program, and, who had been doing some commercial work and some small theatrical work out in New York. They were kind of, I'll say, envious of the experience I had at Sundance and the opportunities that arose from Sundance. And, I kind of saw that as an opportunity, and I was like, there's something here. So what I ended up doing was I partnered up with a buddy of mine named Moses, who's another, up and coming filmmaker. He's a very good director, very talented. And we kind of created this mini Sundance experience in New York City. We called it Indiewood Media. And, we had a series of events, networking events, 2 to 3 hour events with, anywhere from 100 to 200, I guess 250 was our biggest turnout, 250 people. We'd have a 6-person panel. We had, a few Emmy award-winning directors, producers, Sundance filmmakers, documentarians, really anything under the sun, anyone who we thought could kind of bestow some good wisdom and knowledge on our group. We had them in. And we filled the place with actors and other directors, producers, a lot of casting directors. We wanted to help the actor meet the casting director meet the producer meet the director, and just make fill the room with some like-minded people and people who are have the same goals and same vision, and that's what we did. And we had some cool prizes, Raphael Hamilton tickets and other things like that. And it was really cool. It was just approaching it from an entrepreneurial standpoint and standing out. And that's what you got to do. When I was moving to LA, everyone said, just warning you, like, you're just going to be another number. Everyone out there is acting or producing or directing. And I said, okay, well, then I guess I'm going to have to stand out, and that's all I try to do every day is, don't give me anything, give me an opportunity and I'll show my worth and I will hustle harder than anyone in the room and I will bust my butt for you. But don't give me anything but an opportunity. So that was my little spiel.
I love it, man. I love it. Thank you for sharing. And we really got an idea of where you came from and now what you're doing to really stand out. So I'm curious, moving into this field of producing, what is it that you're thinking big about? Like, what does that look like? And how can we as an audience start learning to think bigger? How can we start taking steps towards that?
Yeah. Well, in life, I think that I think you have to think big in general. A lot of people say you have to start at the bottom and work your way up. And that's good. I think it's good to know everything that you're if you're running a construction business, you should know everything about construction. I didn't. But it helps you to be the best, whatever it is that you're trying to be, to the best of your ability. And for producing, when I got on board, everyone said, well, first, you got to be a PA first. You got to go from a PA, and then you can get into the sound and the lighting, and then you can get behind the camera, and then you can be a director of photography before you be a director. And I don't know if you've ever read the book Think and Grow Rich.
Yes,
best book ever. I have that on repeat in my car. I don't listen to music anymore. It's sad. But one of the big things that's always stuck with me, and that's changed the way I thought, is the concept of specialized knowledge. And specialized knowledge is basically you don't need to know everything. What you need to do and what you need to be smart enough to do is to surround yourself with the people that know the things you don't know.
Yep.
So I've always prided myself on surrounding myself with a really good team. And, I've never claimed to know everything about the film industry. I still don't. I've only been back in it for 2.5 years. And when I say back into it, it's really just into it. Right. But what I was always, good at is surrounding myself with those people that, like my business partner now, his name's Andrew Vogel. He's an amazing actor, but he's another phenomenal producer who's just hungry and hustling, and every day him and I have some kind of, we call each other with some kind of good news. And it's always an awesome feeling when you're like, oh, I had a slow day, and then your partner calls you and you're like, oh, I'm hyped. I didn't even know that was happening. But, so again, it's, like him for me he's a perfect yin to my yang. I always say, I'm the hype man. I'm the enthusiasm. I can't shut up. So I'm always out meeting a ton of people. And, sometimes I bring opportunities to us, and I don't really know how we can utilize those opportunities or figure out the connection of how, where our worth is, I'll say. But sometimes, a lot of the times he'll be like, well, dude, like, we can connect him with him or her with him or her, whatever it is, this opportunity with that. And, I don't even think about it sometimes. And, I'm very big picture. I'm like, this is where we're going. And he's like, okay, Zach, but how are we getting there? So we need that person. So yeah, as far as thinking big with producing, when I really got into it, obviously you have to learn, I wanted to learn as much as possible, as quickly as possible. And, so I got on a lot of these smaller budget projects. My first feature film I did, I think it was $50,000 budget, so it wasn't a big budget at all. And my short film that I did we operated with no budget. I found a bunch of people who were like-minded, and this kind of takes me to one thing I always say is, like, the biggest currency in the world, it's not money by any means. It's the effect you have on others. Well, and time, because you can't get time back. But the effect you have on others can generate to anything you want, whether it's money, power, anything. So, when I was trying to do this short film, I found a buddy of mine, Dave Prokopek, who I had worked with, recently before. I was in a pilot that he had shot. He was the DP and more like the director of it. And I just saw how talented he was. And I sat down with him and I said, why haven't you, you were the DP on that, but you directed it. Why aren't you a director? And he said, well, I haven't really been given my shot yet. And I haven't been, really, whatever the reason was. And I said, well, how would you feel about you and I kind of teaming up? I'm learning, I've never directed anything either, but I have this vision for what I want to do. And, he owned a camera and some lighting and had a lot of film knowledge. He went to film school, and I said, how would you feel about us teaming up and starting, starting a project together that we could co-direct. He could DP as well. When I say co-direct, I meant like I would sit back and kind of let him take the reins. I tell him what I wanted as far as vision, but I was just trying to learn as much as possible. Because again, this was my first real experience. And I'd been on some smaller sets, but never where I was kind of, pulling the strings and had a voice like that. And that was just the biggest learning experience I had ever had. I did everything from scouting locations to getting the locations, getting the talent, really everything. And I had some really good, I'll say people involved in that. One of the producers and actors in that is named Vincent DePaul. He won a few Emmys for The Bay, which is an online Amazon series at this point. They've won like 9 Emmys in 2 years. They're killing it. But yeah, so he was, helped out a lot. A very talented actress, Jenny Heaton, was on board as a producer and an actor as well. Couldn't have done it without either of them. And then actually my younger brother starred in it as younger me. So it was cool. We did a flashback.
That's awesome.
Cool. Jacob Cohen is a good kid. But yeah, again, it's kind of just a trial by fire. Go in there, do what you can, hustle, and see what you're made of. And that's what I did for the short film. And then again, I did these smaller budget feature films, which is a whole nother monster in itself. And you're wearing 30 different hats, and just learned a lot. Came from produced those. Well, I did the short film in Baltimore, actually, where I'm from, but went from Baltimore, did another feature in New York, and came out here, I guess about a year ago at this point, last December, and immediately jumped on this project with Vincent DePaul again. It was called Beverly Hills Christmas 2. And that was the biggest learning experience I ever had, because I did so much in that project. Again, it was a low budget project that, I was doing everything from, location scouting to helping with the permitting to dealing with SAG to dealing, it was just a lot. And, I learned so much. And
was there any big like breakdowns that you had to deal with, like stuff that you thought was going to go one way and then went complete opposite direction?
Every single day. Every single day there was something that, we had, a lot of outside shots, and it would just, the skies would open up and it would start pouring. People told me that when you go to LA, it's just sunny and perfect every day. Yeah. In December, and for 3 months it rained and it was 50 degrees. I was like, okay, guys, you got me. I'm here now. Like, I get it. Jokes on Zac. But yeah, no, it was, I learned a ton. And yeah, I mean, again, the breakdowns and putting out the fires, it's just kind of, part of the business. And that's what being a producer really is. And I had a lot of experience with that through construction. So, it wasn't anything I wasn't, equipped to handle, I'll say. But, yeah, again, I was doing everything from producer work and helping with scheduling into permitting to PA work and getting coffee and crafty. And, just, if you tell me something and you're explaining something to me, that's great. And I'll learn. But if you show me how to do something, I'm a firm believer that, you show me how to do it, and I watch you do it, like I'll do it better than you. That's just what I pride myself on doing. I hustle, I work hard. And if you show me once, maybe twice, I'll figure it out. Yeah. And, from there, just, right after that, I went back to Sundance for my second Sundance. And that's where I met my production partner, Andrew. And, I told you about those Indiewood events that I started in New York with my buddy Moses. I wanted to do those out here, but on a way larger scale. So when I went to Sundance this year, that was one of the goals, is I wanted to find a partner for LA. And I met my buddy Andrew, and he actually runs the Louisiana. He's the director of operations for the Louisiana International Film Festival, so LIFF. And I went to this party the final day of Sundance, and I mean, it was the best party at Sundance by far. Sorry for anyone else, but it was just amazing. It was in it was in the biggest venue, and it was the most fun, and everyone was having a great time, great food, great everything. They had masquerade dancers falling from the ceiling. I was like, where am I? I felt like I was in Louisiana. And I was like, I need to find the guy who's running this, you know? Met Andrew, and he's another young, hungry guy like me, and actor, producer just like me. And I said to him, I was like, when we get back, we need to meet. I know there's a lot we can work on together. And he said, let's do it. So the following week we met up, talked about the vision for the events, which we're going to do eventually. We've just been so busy with everything else. But we talked about this big vision, and then he had his hand in a handful of projects. I had my hand in a handful of projects. We kind of just started, collaborating and bring each other in. And I guess it was a month later, we started our company, Dynasty Pictures. And
wow.
And then since then, what we've really set out to do and what we've really been doing is we've been able to really just curate this big network of mentors who, have been doing, again, just surround yourself with people that know more than you do and that you can learn from. And I think mentors are the biggest, I pride myself on just having amazing mentors. So I, surround myself with these amazing people who've been doing this way longer than I have, and just try to show value and do anything you can to help. And that's really how we've really approached it. Is we would say, look, that's amazing what you have going on. What do you need? And how can I help? And how can I be the guy that brings it to you? And through this, I'll say, model, if you want to say it that and call it that, we've really been able to attach ourselves to some huge projects that otherwise, would be a little out of our grasp at this point. Some multi-million-dollar projects that we, with some huge names that I grew up watching, and I just am excited to be a part of it. And so we've helped with everything from raising equity to development funds to bridge gap financing deals to distribution to really anything under the sun. And we've through this we've really been able to become a part of a ton of projects, and it's been amazing. And we also have, I'll say, our babies that we're the head producers on, that we get to call the shots on, which is fun. We have one called Sargasso that we're going to film very soon. We're in pre-production for right now. We're filming in January. Right around a $350,000 budget, talking to some really big names right now. Got that. We got another one called Wingman, which is a rom-com. Buddy of ours wrote Sargasso too. He's an amazing writer. They both are. Both are going to be amazing filmmakers. Adam Siegel and Matthew Yerby. This one's called Wingman, which is about a guardian angel. It's kind of what it sounds like, wingman. If you're like, I need a wingman. So, but he actually has a wingman, an angel in the sky, and takes his wing and shows him how to pick up women. It's hilarious.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's a geeky guy, and but it's awesome. We're talking to some pretty big names for that as well. And we got a lot going on. We're excited though, and it's awesome, man. It's always.
What's the biggest challenge to you fulfilling on your big vision? Patience.
Yeah. I'm a person that I get excited, and when I get excited, I run. I can't, like I said, I'm not a believer of walk before you run. I'm like, just sprint, and if you trip, then like get up and sprint again. But keep running.
It's like see it in your mind's eye that you're sprinting, and then do that.
Just go. Don't let it go. And my problem is definitely just patience. I want it. My vision of what I see for myself. I truly believe, and so does Andrew, that it's a matter of when, not if. I think when you set your mind to something and you kind of map out a plan and you go at it every day, just relentlessly, I think the universe, doesn't get in your way, maybe that's just me listening to too much Napoleon Hill and Earl Nightingale and all these people, but I listen to all those people though, by the way, they're amazing. But it's just, I want it and I don't want to wait for it. And that's sometimes my problem is I get amped at what I'm doing, and I get excited, and all these opportunities keep coming at me from all these different places, and I want to be a part of all of them. And that's my problem. So it's saying no, but also patience. And, I have to remember there's only 24 hours in a day, and sometimes you have to sleep.
How do you know what to say no to? Because with this big thinking, big vision, everything's possible. Anything's possible. Like you want to do it all.
But yeah, no, my problem is definitely saying no. And I'll say over the past few months, I definitely, I was very naive, I think, coming out here at first. I wanted to be a part of everything, and I wanted to do everything for everyone. And I've definitely become way more strategic in what I say yes and no to. A little bit more skeptical, I guess, and a little bit more analytical in my decisions. That's something that Andrew's really helped me with.
Yeah,
he's definitely the analysis in our partnership. But
what kinds of questions does he ask you?
It's more him kind of being like, okay, Zach, is this realistic? Like, do you have enough time to do this? Like, we have this, and this going on, and he has to remind me of that. And I'm like, you're right. Yeah.
Damn, you're right.
But no, it's good. You need that partner. You need that yin to your yang, and you need to have somebody that keeps you in check. And but yeah, and when I first came out here, if I liked the person and I liked their script, then I was like, I'm on board. I want to help in any way I can. Now it's we have so much going on, and there's so many projects that come to us all the time with that are either have money attached or names attached or whatever. It's hard for us to get involved in a project that they want us to kind of take over and run with it at this point. It's just difficult, because we have so much going on that and we do have our passion projects that are at that point. But it's hard for you to take over somebody else's passion project when there's really nothing attached at that point and to make things happen. People always say the carrot money is what gets it started. It's the first money in. So if that project doesn't have the first money in or a big name attached or anything like that, it's really hard for me as a producer to get other people excited, Right. So that's something I've really definitely become more aware of at this point. And, I try to hold back my excitement on certain projects just because I like the project. Don't get me wrong, I still do it because I can't teach an old dog new tricks. But but yeah, man, it's always a learning experience. So
it also what I heard is like there's a head start on the project. There's momentum in the project. If there's not like serious momentum that's practically going to take the project to completion, you're not there to generate the momentum, which could be money or which could be like the A-list talent or a team that's going to.
Not that we're not there. It's just we have our hands in so many different.
Just doesn't make sense.
Right. We got to prioritize. We got to make sure that we're being strategic in our goals and in our approach. And in the past, I've wanted, and I've done this where I've just screw it, I'll be the money in. I've gone all in more times than I'd like to say, and there was a month and a half where I didn't have an apartment. I put every dollar I had into certain things, and I'll figure it out, and I did, but I was the wandering Jew there for a little while. I was going couch to couch to couch. It was a lot, and you live and you learn, but I would do it again. So I didn't. But you can't be scared to risk it all. If high risk, high reward, and you got to go for it. And I'm all about that. So, so many people are scared of failure, and that, I always say they overanalyze and overanalyze and overanalyze, and then they paralyze. And if you don't, I'm actually writing a book about it. I think I talked about this last podcast I did. It's called Stop Thinking and Leap. And it's all about, if you see it, create it. You don't like it, change it. If you want it, make it. You get one life to live, go live that. And, so many people are just so scared of failure and so scared of someone saying no, or, I'm a firm believer if you learn more from failure than you do from success, and so go learn, go do something. And what's the worst case scenario? What's the worst thing that happened? You either fail or you succeed, and if you succeed, then hey, that's amazing. But if you fail, then you learn and you go back and do it again. And, that's why you got to surround yourself with a good support system and good friends and good people and, people who are like-minded. And, so many people think so small. And, they want this, but they don't understand that if you get this is inside of this, so you got to go after it. And, I have acting buddies all the time who tell me, like, I always say, come to Sundance. Go, you got to be at Sundance. And they say, oh, I'll come to Sundance when I have a film at Sundance. And I'm like, that is the wrong approach. That is the wrong way of thinking.
Like who you're being is like, my film's already in Sundance. Now it's just time to go connect the dots.
Exactly. I'm like, you want to have a film in Sundance, go meet the people who are putting films in Sundance. If they like you, you're in the film, And that's another thing is, this approach to acting in general with auditioning. Don't get me wrong. There's plenty of people who are amazing. I pride myself on being a good actor. I believe in my acting ability, but you get 20 seconds in the room with these casting directors and these producers and these directors, and sometimes it's not enough time for them to see who you are and what you bring to the table. And so don't get me wrong. I still go on auditions and I still do that whole grind, but that's not where my focus is at this point. My focus is, what other value can I bring to a project, and how can I show them who I am, and spend some time with these people and to show them that, I'm worth the investment, really, and it also helps if you have some acting ability, obviously, but at the same time, like, it took me so long to get my first acting role, whether it be a commercial or a short film, whatever it was. And I'm shocked every day by the people that they just see the value that I'm bringing to every other aspect of the film. And I get offered roles almost every day on films that are really good films with really good filmmakers. And I'm like, wow, like, if I didn't meet this guy right now, I would have seen this through my agent or Actors Access or Casting Networks, whatever, website you're on. But then you're in the room and you're competing against 1,000 other people, maybe more if it's a nationwide casting, and they all look like you, So you go in there and you have 20 seconds to show them who you are. It's really difficult. And especially when you walk in and, a lot of times they don't even want to hear you talk. They're just like, say the lines and go. And it's very cold, and sometimes it's very not personal. And, how do you get around that? And it's by showing value in every which way, which doesn't just have to be your acting ability. It helps, but it's not everything. So that's something that recently, like me and my partner, we've been meeting with tons of casting directors all over the place because they want to cast our projects, which is great. But the thing that we were talking about yesterday is it's so interesting now. We go there and they want to help us help, it's like help us help you kind of thing, where it's like, we want jobs just like you want jobs. You bring us in, we'll bring you in, and that's just life. That's just business. That's just the way things are. And people don't want to accept that, but that's how it is. That's life. So, if you show value in other ways than just your acting ability, which helps, then you're more inclined to get the job.
Yeah. I also have seen that being an organizer, like you were talking about organizing these events over in New York, if you are an organizer, if you're someone who leads communities, you're automatically ranked up in how people relate to you and how people want to respond to you, build relationships with you. Because you've done those things, you're more desirable for people to work with than someone who's just acting. Oh, I just come in here, do my part, do my lines, then leave. No, but if you're out building stuff, building communities, empowering people, sharing the knowledge, doing big things, thinking big, then you get those spots. People
come to you. Exactly. Yeah. And I've been shocked by the people that I've met at some of the events I've thrown. And I try to go to, I'm a part of this group called Metal that I go to every weekend, and it's just a group of entrepreneurs that meets every weekend. And the people and mentors I've made through that are just absurd. And I'm just, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Another group I go to is called Rarity. I go to a ton of just any kind of networking event I can, just to go see what kind of people I can meet. And the opportunities that arise through that are amazing. And then obviously any event that I can throw, you stand out, especially when you're the guy on the stage hosting the thing. People assume you have your stuff together, pulling them. But no, it's cool. It's interesting. And, again, just stand out in any way you can, whether it's through, for acting or life or business, whatever it is, whatever you're trying to accomplish. If you stand out, people take notice and they start to come to you. And I'm always shocked by the opportunities to kind of fall into your lap when you're putting yourself in the right position.
Amen. So we talked about disruption and how thinking big and disruption kind of go hand in hand. Tell us about disruption, how you relate to it, and maybe some of the disruption that you see going on in the movie and film and acting industries.
Yeah, well, a lot of people kind of see these big, I'll say, whatever it is, whether it's a retail store or a movie studio, they just see them as these big, I'll say, almost like conglomerates that are like unbreakable. Mm-hmm. And throughout life, there's always these disruptions that come out of nowhere and kind of change people's thinking. For the retail stores, for the JCPenney's and the Nordstroms and all these people, it's been Amazon. Amazon came out of nowhere and they're selling everything.
Crushing it.
Yeah. Now, obviously, they're not selling clothing yet, but they're selling everything else. They're really competing with every brand out there. They're the nameless brand, but they have a brand. It sounds fun. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like a catch-22, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, and then for the movie studios, it was really Netflix. And then Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, Amazon again, Amazon's everywhere. So there's always these disruptions that are kind of going on throughout life. And you can either sit back and kind of watch these disruptions happen, or you can, one, become a part of them, or two, figure out, kind of a loophole. So there are a lot of ways to kind of, I'll say, combat the disruptions in whatever industry you're in. You just kind of really, you have to think outside the box. People always believe this is the way it's always been done, so you have to do it this way. And I'm like, no, but that was 30 years ago. It was done that way. Society today and life today isn't the way it was. And technology isn't the way it was. So you got to be forward thinking, and you got to think where the world's going to be in 20 years, and how can you be in front of that? And how can you, I always say think forward. And
can you give us an example of how the movie industry is going with that? Yeah,
well, again, Netflix is really throwing a fork in everything. And, every weekend you see these movies come out that flop. Back in the day, if you had a big name director, two big name stars, and you put them on the screen, you were going to do well.
Yep.
And that's just not the way of the world anymore. You got to, at the end of the day, you got to make people care. If you don't create that hype and that excitement and that, enthusiasm for your projects, then nobody's going to see them. It doesn't matter how good the project is. And so I always think it's kind of funny when people tell me, well, that's not how this is done, or that's never how I've done this or this or that. I'm like, well, that's why your movie flopped. And I'm not trying to be, mean or, whatever, but it's the truth. You got to be forward thinking. You got to think about different ways and think outside the box, ways that you could change things up. And, whether it's through your marketing or whether it's through your, Facebook ads, whatever it is, however you want to generate this excitement, or, the release of your film, there's certain ways you can do, fun things and create this hype. I always say, like, the people on social media are really good at generating, like, these influencers. They'll have millions and millions and millions of views. And it's really just because they get people to care. At the end of the day, that's all it is people care what they're putting out there, no matter how silly it is. It might be a 1-minute video. It could be a 30-minute video. People really just have to care. Yeah. And that's really stuck with me. I think it's just very interesting. So that's how I'm approaching things.
What does it take to get people to care?
It's building that hype, building that excitement, building that enthusiasm. I'm building a film fund that is currently, kind of investigating different ways of thinking about things and thinking about how we can take aspects of the quote unquote old model and apply them to the new model. There's a lot of things that do work, that have worked through the old model of filmmaking, but there's a lot that just is outdated and flawed at this point, and it's failing. And people, they say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. But there's only so many times you can bang your head into a wall and expect it to break when you're hitting a stud,
Mm-hmm.
So, it's interesting though. And I've been talking to a lot of my mentors and a lot of people who have been doing this way longer than I have, trying to figure out exactly what they think is flawed and what is working. And, slowly but surely, we're putting together a nice little plan. And, there's a lot of people out there who have built film funds and have a lot of money at their disposal, but they're kind of just approaching it the same way everyone else is. And I don't want to look at things like that. I want to think outside the box. I want to think differently, and I want to be forward thinking, and I want to see the future. I want to be a person who, my whole thing is, we're the future. My generation especially is the future, get us to care. And how do you do that? It's just build the hype, build excitement. People say that, my generation is very ADHD or ADD, and they don't want to watch something, they just want to see 30-second clips. They want to see 1-minute clips. Yet Stranger Things just dropped last week or 2 weeks ago. And I know I'm a victim of it. I'm a person, I literally sat down in a day and watched every episode. Was it 10 episodes, 11 episodes, an hour each? I spent 11 hours straight just watching it. I couldn't move. I couldn't get away from it. Same thing with Ozark. 2 amazing shows. Watch them. But I'm just saying, so, I get that, the world is a little bit more ADD and they don't want to sit down as long. But when there's good content out there that people care about, people are excited about, they'll sit down and watch it for however long it's there, So the hype is there. The excitement is there. And that's why these are working out so well. And it doesn't matter that they're hour-long episodes and that there's 10 of them. I'm going to watch the whole thing in a day because I'm obsessed. And that's what you got to create, is that excitement, that enthusiasm, that hype for it. And then at the end of the day, put out a good product, obviously, which is what they were able to do. But if nobody knows that project exists, nobody watches it. And they did that through some really good marketing. Look at it. It obviously had a name. It was a franchise coming into it. It was a remake. But the ways that they marketed this thing, I don't know if you saw the balloons they put all over LA.
Mm-mm.
They, how it comes out of the gutters of so they had somebody went around the city and tied balloons to gutters all over the city.
Wow.
And people were like, what? That was so genius. Those are just little ways to get people to care. And that didn't cost them that much money, get 10 people to go around and just, get a bag of balloons and just blow them up and tie a string to them. That's, but that's so innovative and so interesting and such a unique way of marketing. People say, what is that? And they get up close and there's a little ad for it. And they're like, oh, that's cool, But again, who doesn't want to see that movie when the people are just as creative? I think that, and especially in this example, the creativity doesn't just have to be in the actual film. The creativity can be – the project can be just as creative in the way you structure it, the way you the way you fund it, finance it, the way you market it. Everything about it can be creative. And that's something I think the film industry has lost. And, I think other industries in general are kind of catching on to. And, it's changing. Everything – the world's always changing. Technology's always changing. And you got to be a forward thinker. And you got to make people care.
What do you look at to think outside of the box, to be creative? What attributes, what do you pull from? What sources of inspiration would you look at? Do you have any examples that you've done on funding or advertising or getting the word out about some of your projects that you've been creative about? What patterns do you look at? What psychology do you think about when people are thinking about these things? Can you give us a deeper dive into how to create that standing out?
Well, a lot of the times recently, one of my mentors, a guy named Tom, he's an amazing, amazing human. We sat down and I was really trying to pick his brain about the fund. And he kind of sat there and he wrote out just the number of different, things, and then wrote their disruptions. It was just really interesting to see how these people, we were kind of reverse engineering how did Netflix become Netflix? They saw these studios and they said, wow, how can we disrupt this? They pretty much created an online little studio, obviously it didn't start out as streaming. It started out as DVDs, but, it's hard to see the future and to be the forward thinker. And, you really got to use your imagination a little bit and kind of see where the world is turning to. Obviously for the movie industry, if people don't have to leave their bedrooms to see an amazing piece of work, then they won't, unless it's not offered on an online platform.
Right.
But again, if they don't know about your project, they're never going to get out of bed because they don't have to anymore. So it's it's really difficult to, you know, without me giving away too much of what my fund is going to offer, that's going to be so different about that than everything else that's current right now. It's really difficult to come up with different ways to build excitement and build hype. So that's what it's all about. You know, you got to make people care. And there's so many ways to do that. And I've literally sat down for days at a time with my production partner and my other partner in the fund. His name's Alex Levine. We've literally sat down and had some heated discussions because we don't always see eye to eye with everything, you know? And again, I get excited and I want to just do it. And I want to do it now. And they're like, relax, we got to figure this out. And I'm like, okay, you know, but it's difficult, you know? And, but it's good, you know? You gotta, you really got to think of everything and think of different ways to just building that excitement and, raising awareness and getting your brand out there and getting your face out there and getting your projects out there. And, you know, it's interesting. Like, for example, Hamilton, just like one little quick thing. I hate mentioning Hamilton because that's like, you know, a needle in a haystack as far as like success goes. But people, you know, those tickets are sold out months ahead of time. Because there's so much hype behind it. It doesn't matter where they are. You know, it could be they're in LA for a week. Those tickets are almost impossible to get. And if you're getting them, a ticket's $1,000, $2,000, whatever it is, depending on where you're sitting. That's because there's just so much excitement behind it, you know? So I think there's something to that where it's like, you know, that's a brand right there. And that's people care about Hamilton, like hardcore care about Hamilton. It blows my mind. But I kind of want to take that thinking a little bit and the way they kind of do stuff for those plays and the way they, you know, and kind of implement that into, you know, TV and film, because there's some really cool stuff there.
Beautiful, man. I love it. So what is on the horizon for you? You mentioned a big fund that you're working towards. What else do you want to be creating? What other kind of impact do you want to leave in the world?
Yeah, well, that fund, it's interesting because that fund is going to be less of a fund, and it's going to be a fund, but it's going to really operate a lot as a VC. You know, I don't want to just invest in individual projects in film. I want to invest in companies in the future and the media space in general, technology in general. I want to help curate the next generation of filmmakers and the future, and help give a voice to those who are unheard right now. You know, there's so much creativity out there in the world right now, but there's not a lot of people that have the platform or the access to, you know, to the materials to really make, to kind of find their, to show their potential. So for, you know, for my fund, I you know, there's just so many opportunities that every day I'm blown away by that. I'm like, wow, like whether it's a person or you know, or a company, I'm like, how don't you have the resources you need right now? You're amazing and you're a genius. And I want to help you get to where you want to be because I believe in you, you know? There's so many brilliant people out there with such amazing ideas. And I want to help them get to where they can be because I see so much potential in the world. And, you know, at the same time, I want to build this huge platform and really create some good. You know, there's so much darkness in the world right now, so much hate, and not a lot of people spreading the light. And I want to be one of those people that's, you know, spreading the light. And I always say, be the light you want to see in the world. You know, somebody's got to do it. So I'm hoping to be one of those people. But it's, you know, you know, be good, be a good person, and just, you know, I want to leave my stain in the world in a really good way. You know, I want to leave the world a better place than when I found it. And, you know, again, that's why you need really good mentors who are living the life you want to live. Whether it be through charity or, you know, charitable events or what have you. There's just so many ways to make an impact and to create social change and, you know, raise awareness for things that need to be changed. And I hope to, you know, help with that a little bit.
What do you say to the people who don't feel like it's their responsibility to step up? They're like, oh, someone else will do it. You know,
Right. Everyone feels like that, though. You know, right. Everyone's like, oh, well, like, what can I do? How do I actually create some kind of change? You can do anything, you know, whether it's start and host a charity event, you know, and like that event me and Andrew are eventually going to throw. We are going to do it eventually. You know, 100% of the proceeds are going to go to a charity, whatever charity we partner with at that time. You know, everyone's kind of like, oh, I can't do anything. I don't have that big of a voice. And I get it. I'm the same way as far as like social media wise. I'm not going to go on Facebook and like, you know, sometimes I hate going on social media because it's all just so dark and hate and just people, you know, I don't really, I get people want to voice their opinions and their beliefs and that's great, you know, but you just blasting somebody online isn't going to make any change, you know. Right. Go out there and do something, whether it's, you know, volunteer somewhere or again, start something, stand out, create some kind of change. And, you know, it's funny, you know, the other day, I was watching one of these Tony Robbins videos and it was all about giving, just give. And when you give, like, the universe recognizes and you get back 1,000 times what you give. And it's true. It's 100% true. A change doesn't have to happen on a huge level. It can be one person at a time, you know. There's a guy who lives on the top of my street who's such a sweet man, and he's definitely had some hardships in his life. And, you know, unfortunately he's, you know, homeless at the moment, and people don't look at homeless people as people for some reason. I don't get it. And, you know, every week or so, you know, I buy him lunch and him and I sit down and we just like talk for like 45 minutes and he just tells me about his life and it always blows my mind. He was an amazing person and, he just had some really tough times following him and everything kind of fell apart at once and he didn't know how to handle it. And so he ended up there. And I kind of feel like we're all 1 degree from that, you know, like for me, when I went all in on certain projects, if they didn't work out, I would have been, you know, SOL. But you know, if I didn't have such a good support system and such good friends and curate some really good relationships, I mean, that month and a half, where would I have been? You know, if I didn't have couches to stay on, where would I have been? So, you know, everyone's not that far from being in that situation. So it doesn't matter what change you're trying to make, whether it's one person at a time, one lunch at a time, or, you know, one huge event at a time and donating a ton of money, whatever you want to, you know, however you see a way to create an impact, do it. And again, be the light you want to see in the world. Because if you don't do it and the other person doesn't do it, nobody's going to do it. And it's one person at a time. It's one day at a time, one step at a time. Just forge ahead, you know?
Beautiful. Zac, dude, you're a rock star, man. How could people stay connected with you, dude?
I got my Instagram, social media. It's at Zac Weinstein, so at ZAC Weinstein. That's my Instagram. It's mostly like my modeling stuff. It's a little and also my Facebook, Zac Weinstein, ZAC Weinstein. Yeah, we also our company dynastypictures.com, DYNASTY pictures.com, as well as ZacWeinstein.com, ZACWeinstein.com. So yeah, love to hear anybody's opinions on how this was. And yeah, man, thank you so much for having me. This was great. I really appreciate it. I'm glad we met at that event.
Absolutely, man. It's all about like creating with others, co-creating. I remember like the conversation we had after that event is like, dude, this is epic. We're totally creating the future right here, right now, just discussing it, you know, hashing it out, planting seeds of possibility. And I really acknowledge you, Zac, for being that person who's creating the future now, who's taking responsibility, taking ownership, saying, I am the one who makes the difference. And so are you, and you, and you, and you, and you. We're all the ones who can make the difference. And you take one step at a time and you think big. And thank you for being the role model and the leader so that we can all do that in our own lives as well, man. Thank you.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. This was great. I'd love to come back.
You're welcome. You're welcome, man. Absolutely. We'll definitely have you back on. Let's go rock some movies, baby. Hit the box office, whatever. Millions of downloads, views. Let's make it happen, and we'll get you back on.
Thank you so much.
All right, Zac. We'll see you soon.
Hi, buddy.